The unfolding storm, global collapse, and the prelude to war. The blessed elder Saint Paisios of Mount Athos, a living flame of divine insight, spoke often with trembling reverence of the great trials and cataclysms that would engulf the earth before the Antichrist arose. His words, gathered from decades of holy counsel and recorded by spiritual children, now sound like trumpets in the final hour. In this first section, we unveil the initial waves of chaos, upheaval, and divine shaking that he foresaw: global collapse, civil unrest, and spiritual disintegration preparing the world for war and deception. The collapse of nations and the shattering of order. Saint Paisios warned that before the spiritual deluge, the world would pass through fire. Civil unrest would sweep through many lands. Cities will be turned into battlefields, he said. Even peaceful societies will become like boiling pots with riots, betrayals, and people turning against each other. B. The collapse of governments would not come merely through war, but from within, through economic disaster, immorality, and a deliberate erosion of national sovereignty. He foresaw that Europe, once strong and proud, would become spiritually barren and socially chaotic. The European Union, he said, was built not on faith or brotherhood, but on economic convenience and arrogance, and it would not endure. It would fragment under the weight of its own contradictions. Meanwhile, America, once seen as a beacon, would stagger under its sins. It would lose its way entirely. There is no family, no modesty, no faith, he said. They will collapse from within before they collapse from without. The false calm before the inferno. Paisios emphasized that before the eruption of total war, there would be a deceptive calm. There will be peace talks, negotiations, even treaties, he said, but they will be false. The real war will follow, and it will be unlike anything the world has seen. And this prelude period would be marked by false optimism, temporary ceasefires, economic recovery, and declarations of unity. But beneath the surface, the powers would prepare for war. He likened it to a still forest before a lightning strike. Quiet, yet pregnant with fire, the earth groans under man's rebellion. Saint Paisios saw nature itself responding to the sins of mankind. He described ecological disasters not merely as environmental events, but as spiritual signs. The earth will tremble, storms will come. The weather will no longer follow its patterns. Fire and flood will alternate. He saw floods swallowing cities, storms tearing apart coastlines, and droughts rendering fertile lands barren. The natural world, he said, would become hostile, not because God had abandoned it, but because man had abandoned God. We are defiling creation, he said, and creation will rise up in sorrow. The very elements would begin to behave unpredictably, and this dissonance between creation and man would be one of the signs that the end was drawing near. The spiritual vacuum and the rise of the beast system. Amid this chaos, Saint Paisios foresaw a great spiritual vacuum forming across the world. As the true church was mocked and marginalized, counterfeit religions and movements would flourish. People will chase after gurus, mystics, and philosophies of demons, he said. They will reject Christ and embrace new gods. But most ominously, he foresaw the rise of a unified global system, a shadowy network that would emerge under the guise of peace and security. It would promise solutions to the world's problems, offer universal identification, and even guarantee food and income. But in exchange, it would demand loyalty to a spirit not of God. They will create a card, and whoever has the card will eat, he said. But that card will also be a mark, first symbolic, then literal. Saint Paisios warned that this system would slowly condition the world for the acceptance of the Antichrist. It would begin through economics and technology, but its end would be spiritual enslavement, the new slavery, and the breaking of the world. Saint Paisios foresaw a world where people would abandon prayer for machines, growing spiritually numb. They will live in a fog, he said, controlled not by chains, but by comforts. He warned that everything, money, movement, identity, would be tracked, forming an invisible prison masked as safety. It won't feel like slavery, he said, but it is. This system was not human progress, but a demonic deception, preparing the way for the man of sin. Those who resisted it would suffer. Those who embraced it would lose their souls. He saw a deeper collapse, not just societal, but cosmic. They build a future, he said, but it will fall like Babel. The world, rejecting God, would dissolve under its own pride. Yet even this collapse, he said, was mercy, not wrath, but a trumpet calling humanity to repent.